welcome to Great Day Houston. Thank you very much. It is a fact of life. Some days just aren't that great, right? But most of us have the ability to snap out of it. What do you do when those tough times are ingrained in your day-to-day life, though? If that's you, then we hope you'll get some encouragement on today's show. All of our guests today went through some tough times, abuse, a chaotic childhood, traumatic divorces, medical issues, you name it, and it all affected their self-esteem. But each woman eventually had a turning point that changed their course in life for the better. Their stories of overcoming life's challenges are compiled in a new inspirational book called God Gave Us Wings. Please welcome the author and a woman who had her own fears to overcome, Connie Rankin. Good morning, Connie. My, how time flies.
Can you believe this?
Because you emailed me, how long ago was that?
A year and a half ago.
Year and a half ago.
Year and a half ago.
All right, and you said, I'm interested in writing a book, and I want to share stories.
That's right.
And then I emailed you back and said, okay, but I don't know when we're going to do this because I don't have any time.
That's right. That's
and then I ran into you at a luncheon. And
right. And Deborah was at a luncheon, and so after
you
she was the
me.
MC, and I came up and I talked to you, and she said, I said, why don't you let me interview you? And you said, okay, great, when? I said, how about tomorrow? And you looked at me and, sure, okay, 30, I give you 30 minutes. Like, 2.5 hours later, I even got to hear her beautiful voice. She sang to me.
All sing, dance,
yes,
whatever you want.
everything. She was great. 2.5 hours later, I didn't even know what her story was at the time. And after I got done hearing your story, I was just so mesmerized. It was just beautiful. I mean, it was beautiful, the different things that, some of it was beautiful, some of it wasn't quite so beautiful when you almost died.
We oftentimes say, we know where people are, we don't know how they got there, right?
That's right.
And, you know, I was that little fat black girl in several different schools around the world, and I never fit in, right? And so I would kind of go into myself, and people go, you were shy, you went into yourself. Yes. Right?
Well, let me say this, Deborah did not share she was fat.
Yeah, right.
I have to say that. She did not share she was fat, or I would have put that in there, because look at her today.
But the whole thing was food was my comfort. That was my friend, right? And you hear that so many times with people who deal with obesity issues. But I was totally insecure, and a lot of people don't know that, and they don't believe that, but I'm like, that was that kid.
Look what you've done.
5 elementary schools, you're moving around all the time.
That's right.
But yeah, so in your book, you really address what people's fears may have been, the things that could have held them back.
That's right.
And what I'm interested to learn, and we'll find out a little bit later on because we have a psychiatrist with us this morning, a friend of yours, is the same thing can happen to the same people, but people do different things with it, right? Let's start with you. As a child, you had a near-death experience.
I did. I was 5 years old, and it was just a freak accident. My dad and mom said, go find your sisters, and we're going to go to the movies. So I ran outside, and I was 5, and there was a wall that I needed to climb over because we always like to play on the other side of the wall.
The grass is always greener there.
Of course. And so there was, some reason, there was a little 2-year-old standing there, and I thought, oh, he must live on the other side of the wall. So I put the child on my back, and I'm 5, and start scaling this 4-foot wall. Well, we fell, and when we did, I landed on my knee, and of course I have the scar, and I cut my knee the first time. Didn't realize that I'd cut my leg, and I picked the baby back up because he was crying. And then I looked down, and blood was just, and I fell again on the same tin can and almost completely severed my leg. The only thing that was left was the muscle. And at that moment, I just started screaming. I don't even know what happened to that baby at that moment. And my mom...
He was probably screaming, too.
Yeah, I'm sure he was, because blood is just cut the main artery in my leg. My mom and dad heard me, and my mom goes, is that Connie? I mean, it hadn't been gone that long. And she said, is that Connie? And she knew. She knew. I mean, you know your child's scream. And so she ran over, and by that time, a lady had come out named Mary, and she had picked me up, and she was cradling me when my mom came up, and my mother almost passed out. And she said, Dorothy, you cannot pass out. We have to get her to the hospital now. And so we got in the car, and I don't know if I was in shock. I'm sure I was at 5. I must have been in shock. But I remember I turned around, and I looked at the back seat, and I said, where's my 2 sisters? I was so concerned about them.
Which is what children do, right? We're concerned about everybody else.
Everybody. And so, and at that moment, when I was in the ambulance on the way to the hospital, you know, you can say I had an out-of-body experience. I'm not really sure what it was at 5, but I knew I was going to die. I mean, I knew, but I was okay with it. I was completely okay, but my mom is just bawling. I mean, she is crying. She had lost a child before me. I always felt like I was her replacement child. So it was a big pressure on me.
It's interesting when you say you were okay with it. When I had my brain aneurysm that burst, I remember worrying about it, and I thought, wait a minute, I'm not in control of this. I can't. If I die, I hope I know where I go, and I hope I see my brother, who had been killed by a drunk driver, years before, and I thought, I hope I see him. But if I live, it means I have more to do.
And it's very peaceful. Don't you agree? It's a very peaceful place to be. And so at that moment, but I looked at my mother, and I was like, okay, you know, I feel good about this. And my mom bawling. And at that moment, I remember thinking, I said, I thought that I was thinking it, but actually it was coming out of my mouth. I said, I love you, but I love my mother too. And so I got to the hospital. The first thing they did, they looked for a tourniquet on my leg, and there was no tourniquet. And they said, why did the bleeding stop? They couldn't find any medical reason why the bleeding had stopped. And so they took me into surgery, and so they came back out. And I'm very thankful. My mother was very spiritual. She was a Christian, very strong Christian. And they came out and they said, you know, we're going to have to amputate her leg off. And my mother just said, no, you cannot take her leg. And then she said, no, if God can stop the bleeding, he can save her leg. And so he said, I'll go back in.
You mentioned earlier the scar right here. We can see it right here.
And try 5.
Yeah, 5 years old, this is your battle wound right over here, right?
Battle wound. A conversational piece.
So, there it is right there. There you go.
Yeah, right there.
Did you just spray tan her yesterday?
Yes, I did. I got some tan on me.
You do. But the thing is, when something like that happens, and you had that was your kind of the beginning of your understanding what faith was, but it also created anxiety in you.
Yes, it did, a lot of anxiety. Not only in me, but it did my mother. I was in shock when I was in the hospital. I would go in and out of shock where I would just be screaming, my leg, because I thought it was going to fall off. I mean, I was 5. The funny story is, when I came out of surgery, I had a full cast on from here down to my toes, and I'm 5. Now, you got to remember I was 5. I touched the cast, and I thought they had put a wooden leg on me.
Oh, you had a peg leg.
I was screaming.
Okay, so going through, you also had that kind of, one of the things that a lot of us do is that negative self-talk.
Yes.
You can't do this. You can't do this. You can't, right? And that was a big thing for you. At age 28, you stepped into your fear. What do you mean by that?
Well, I went back to school at 28 years old. I got
because you had a teacher who said you can't do anything.
Well, that's fourth grade. That was my main word. I can't do this. I can't. Anytime fear would come, I'd go, oh, I can't do this. And she was a tough teacher. She'd go, never could do anything. And I'd go, okay.
Can't, never could. It means you didn't even have a chance, right?
So I was so scared of her. So her voice would just resonate. Every time someone would say can't, I'd go, no, I can do it. I can do it.
Yeah. So 28, went to night school, but you started your own commercial real estate company. How's that for can't, never, could do anything?
Can't, never, could do anything.
You know, you raised your child. You have 2 grandsons, happy marriage, all those things that you thought could not happen.
Possible.
I have to tell you that at age 5, I got a scar on my knee too, and it's on my left knee, because my sister and I would go, or her friends would play in this Chinese village. We were in Taipei, Taiwan, and you had to jump like a big sewage ditch in order to get to this village, right? And I couldn't make the jump because I was just 5 years old.
Right.
And my sister said, look, I'm gonna make you some wings.
She did.
And you can fly over that benjo ditch. This is my sister who was 6 years older than me, who I adored. I worshipped her. And so she made the wings, and if they look like wings at 5, they must work, right? And she was an artist, and so she took time to scallop the edges. And she drew feathers for a week. All right, and so I walk out of the house, and of course, this is my mom and I still have issues today, because I'm wondering why a mother would not ask the older child
what are you doing?
What they're doing when the younger child is walking out with the older child with cardboard wings duct taped to their arms. I just think that I would, as a mother, ask, what's going on there? Instead, my mom says, have fun. So, yeah, I went, I flapped and I flapped and I flapped, and they're like, come on, small fry. And I was running and I was flapping, and I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. Right? No, I didn't touch the sky. I fell into the benjo ditch and I had a scar on my leg, and they hosed me off naked in the front yard. You want to talk about traumatizing? It's a wonder I'm here today. But anyway, so the name God Gave Us Wings. You came up with that idea. It's a perfect title for this book.
I think
but how did you think about that?
Well, you know, there was a time, and it was in 2008, I almost lost my commercial real estate firm, and it was devastating.
People losing their homes,
it was devastating for me because I based my worth on that.
Yeah.
See, unfortunately, that's what I did.
The external validation, yeah.
So it was like, okay, look at me, I'm successful, and then when that started, it's like, oh, I'm a loser.
Well, you hear that voice again, can't, never, could do anything.
That's right. So all of that started coming back. So I started working all the time, and I'm not going to look at my grandson because I'll start crying. What I'm about to say is I missed one of his baseball games. Oh, okay. And he had a home run, his first home run.
And your grandson's with us today.
Right
Give us a little wave there. All right.
And he had a home run, and like a 7-year-old, he said, Nana, you missed my home run. And I go, oh, it's okay. You'll get to do another one. Yeah. Now, 7-year-olds don't let you off that easy.
Yeah.
He said, what if I don't have another one? And I'm going, well, no, you will.
Oh.
So that was
You're a smart little boy over there. Yeah.
And so at that moment, that voice kept ringing in my head. And I would say a month later, I got on my knees and just started praying. I was like, where is my joy? What is going on?
Yeah.
And it just came to me. I was to write a book and to give back. And
God gave us
wings.
God
gave us wings.
And you share the story of many women who've been through several things. We have a few of those women here today. So coming up, how do you take that hardship and push forward to success? We'll have more after this.